Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Fulton, and on behalf of my co-authors from the Interactive Robotics and Vision Lab at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, I am pleased to present Underwater Robot-to-Human Communication via Motion, an implementation and full-loop human interface evaluation. This paper is in the context of underwater human-robot interaction. This is a field which has been developing over the last 15 years due to the emergence of human portable AUVs. Now, the purpose of underwater HRI is to allow collaboration between humans and AUVs in underwater work via communication. Now, when we look at the AUV to human side of communication, it's mostly the use of digital displays, as we can see in the video on the right. Divers reading off of small integrated displays in the AUVs. Now, digital displays are great for communicating high-density information. However, they have a very limited distance and orientation at which they can be read. So they're very limited in the relative position between the diver and the AUV that can be possible during communication. They're also not a supernatural way to communicate. So we were curious about exploring natural human-like communication, which is why in 2019 we proposed robot communication via motion, or RCVM. RCVM is a communication system for AUVs which uses kinemes, sequences of robot motion with an associated semantic meaning. RCVM produces these kinemes and demonstrates them to communicate to a human. As you can see on the right here, we have the follow me kineme on the Aqua AUV. Now, we originally proposed and evaluated this for simulated AUVs, and in simulation, our kineme communication outperformed a light-based communication system as a baseline. But now we want to address how RCVM will perform in the real world and as compared to alternatives. And when I say alternatives, I mean alternative communication systems like an LED-based communication system, as we tried in our first paper about this, an LCD-based communication system. So this is the primary thing that's been used in underwater HRI thus far, and a text-to-speech communication system, which plays audible phrases to be heard by the diver. Now, in order to evaluate our implementation of RCVM, we performed a small pilot study in the real world, so people and the robot both in the pool together, working together, in the context of a full interaction loop. So we trained participants on the use of RCVM, then they asked the robot a question, received an answer via a kineme, and then took an action based on that response. And as we can see in the results here on the right, kinemes are recognized with lower accuracy in our implementation than they were in the original simulation prototype, but it's still a reasonable rate of recognition, 60%. We also performed a study evaluating the efficacy of RCVM as compared to 3 other communication systems, the 3 I showed you before, at 5 different communication viewpoints. Now, this study, due to its size and scale, was administered online. We had 130 participants, 9 of which were excluded from the final data, recruited on Amazon Mechanical Turk, and trained on the use of one of those communication systems at an ideal viewpoint. We then had them recognize communications from those systems at a random viewpoint. So same system, different viewpoint. So for instance, from the ideal kineme viewpoint of 5 meters, they could also be asked to view things at 3 meters, at 8 meters, at a 45-degree angle, or a 90-degree angle. And we saw a lower overall accuracy of RCVM than in our pilot study, which is likely due to the online environment. But here we can see our results, and you'll notice that while RCVM is not the highest at the EDU level, that's the ideal viewpoint, it is actually the most resistant to viewpoint change. Every other communication system outperforms RCVM at the ideal viewpoint. But when we move to further viewpoints, so further distances from the camera, or we rotate the camera, they all are significantly affected by it, particularly the text-to-speech and LCD systems. Whereas RCVM, and to a lesser extent, the LED systems, are much, much more resistant to these changes. In summary, we've continued to establish RCVM as an option for AUV communication by conducting 2 studies, a pilot study demonstrating an overall 60% kineme recognition accuracy, and a multidimensional study exploring the effect of viewpoint and content. And we generally find that kinemes can be recognized with reasonable accuracy and are less negatively affected by viewpoint. Thanks to all our IRV Lab colleagues, collaborators, and our funding partners, the